How much is at stake here for President Xi Jinping, given the very challenging macroeconomic and geopolitical backdrop?
Well, I think from a Chinese perspective, this is very much going to be as a celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, which fundamentally is Xi Jinping's big kind of foreign policy idea that he's added to the sort of roster of ideas that the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party has been sort of advancing. So I think what we're going to see over the next day is essentially a celebration of this. And I think a lot of the issues that your colleague just highlighted are ones that are kind of bumping along in the background and are visible to those who are sort of digging closely. But I think the optics of this session are going to be a very positive one. And I think that's clearly the intention of what China wants to do. It wants to showcase once again that it is the big, important power on the world stage. Big, important countries and leaders are coming to China to celebrate its foreign policy. And that's going to be the big aim of this session.
How much is there to celebrate in an environment where we have seen growing criticism of China as really forming this debt trap for developing nations at a time when the coronavirus pandemic seems to have also changed the narrative on what these investments on infrastructure mean for these countries? Not to mention, Italy has already told China that they're pulling out from BRI.
Well, I think, we have to think about how this idea, or the concept of the Belt and Road, is sort of taken in different parts of the world. Now, it's clear in the West, in Europe, in the United States, the narrative has taken hold that this is sort of part of a predatory attempt by China to, ensnare parts of the world, claim bits of infrastructure, claim requests from developing countries, and trapping them using debt. But actually, when you go to a lot of these developing countries, there's a very different narrative there. You can see instead there, they actually still appreciate the investment, and they actually still want more of it. And from their perspective, the slowdown that we've seen of the Belt and Road is something that's actually quite negative. These are countries ultimately that need investment. They need infrastructure. They need someone to be lending them money or to be even offering them money that they could borrow to build things that they want to build because they can't do it themselves. Now, if they went to Western creditors, some of these are accessible, but sometimes the demands are too high or the requirements are ones that they don't want or the timelines or the feasibility studies or something isn't something they appreciate, whereas the Chinese offer a very different sort of, no strings attached approach in some ways. So this means that in parts of the developing world, a lot of these narratives that you mentioned around sort of debt trap diplomacy don't resonate in the same way. And in some countries, they're actually still quite happy to sort of accept Chinese investment. If we go back and look earlier this year, there was a meeting between President Xi Jinping and the 5 leaders of the Central Asian countries held in Xi'an. The Belt and Road was repeatedly mentioned there in very positive and glowing terms. So I think it really depends on where you're looking at this from to understand how exactly the idea is landing around the world.